Hi friends, welcome to Sociodemic. Friends, the channel Sociodemic is exclusively dedicated to preparation of UGC NET paper 1. Friends, today we are going to discuss about some of the important topics in chapter 2, that is research aptitude. These are types of biases in experimental research. So we will going to discuss about some of the important questions in types of biases, friends. Types of bias also very important topic, which we can observe repeated questions in exam. Okay, first question. This is based on assertion reasoning question, friends. Experimental bias can significantly affect the validity of experimental research outcomes. That is assertion. Reason. A researcher's expectations or unintentional cues can influence participants' responses during the experiment. Friends, we have to observe the keywords. Experimenter's bias can significantly affect the validity. Validity is a keyword here. Validity of experimental research. So every experimenter has some bias. See, after all, we are all humans. Every human have some biases. So experimenter also a human. Experimenter has some biases. So he has some beliefs. He has some opinions. That beliefs may affect the research outcome. That is called experimenter's bias. So researcher's expectations. He may have some expectations. He may believe something. So he may expect the outcome can support his expectations. So that bias will build. See, there is nobody have 100% objective. We have some subjective opinions. Everybody has his subjective opinions. So nobody is perfectly objective. So experiment has some opinions and expectations. So research expectations are unintentional cues. There is no intention, but deliberately they may expect something. Cues can influence participant responses. Here the answer is A. Experimental bias can significantly affect validity. The validity affects because of expectations of experimenters, unintentional cues. Because of this, the validity of the research may affect. So reason is supporting the assertion. Friends, as per my experience, almost more than 75% plus questions in assertion reasoning, the answer would be A. You need some just a clarity about the concept, you may arrive the answer. Most of the answers are, I can say, about 70% our answers are in assertion and reasoning. Answer is A. So the experimental bias is recognized issue in experimental research where a researcher expectation or subtle cues, that is tone, body language, can influence the participant. See, he may have a harsh tone. See, after all, they are all humans. Depending on the circumstances, situations, she may have a harsh tone or pleased tone. Because of the tone, the outcome of the research may vary. The respondent may feel otherwise, or that depends on researcher's body language. This body language may affect the outcome of the research, outcome of the answers of the respondents. So these are all that subtle cues may affect subtle cues may affect the experimental research. So that will affect validity of experimental research. So subtle body language behavior thus affecting the study's validity. The reason correctly explain how this bias operate. So the reason how it is explaining the unintentional cues and expectations. Friends, I hope you understood the answer. Okay, explanation. Next, second question. Which of the following is a type of bias that occurs when participants modify their behavior because are aware of being observed? Here, keyword is aware of being observed. Friends, first of all, before answering the question, every question has some keywords. First of all, we have to identify the keyword, then we definitely correctly arrive after observing the keywords, arriving answer in an experimental study. So, which of the following is a type of bias occurs when participants modify their behavior because of their aware of being observed? Here, modify their behavior, aware of being observed in an experimental research. Friends, any person, anybody change their behavior, change their attitude of being aware of being observed. See, they may behave, they are in lonely, they may behave differently, they are in the group. So somebody is observing, behavior may change. Here, that is called Hawthorne effect. Friends, Hawthorne effect says that when people change their behavior because they know they are being watched, they are aware of being observed. That is called Hawthorne effect, which is important bias in the research aptitude. Friends, there are different biases in research. There are different biases in while doing research. These are placebo effect, experimental effect, and important is halo effect. Halo effect or halo bias. Halo effect is nothing but a mental bias where our first positive impression or someone influences overall judgment of researcher. See, first impression is the best impression. For example, one researcher have some opinion, have some opinion on particular thing. So where he is trying to become a forming a good opinion, that is called halo effect. So here, which of the following type of bias occurs when participants modify their behavior? This is related to participant, but here this is related to observer. Friends, this is the difference. The Hawthorne effect refers to participants altering their behavior due to awareness of being observed, a common bias in experimental research. So, confirmation bias. Friends, what is confirmation bias? For example, a researcher has his opinion or belief on something. So, researcher always trying to defend his opinion, always defend his belief as trying to outcomes that defends his belief. That is called confirmation bias. For example, he is a vegetarian. He is doing research on effects of non-vegetarian consumption of non-vegetarian and health benefits of health related effects of non-vegetarian. He is always trying to defend his vegetarian belief, ignoring the good effect and advantages of the non-vegetarian. That is called confirmation bias. Why? He has a preconceived notion that that is vegetarianism is good for health. Of course, vegetarianism is a good for health, but there are proteins, vitamins in non-vegetarian also. So he is always trying to support the vegetarianism. So he has a confirmation that is a vegetarian is a good for health. So that is called confirmation bias. He is already confirmed vegetarianism is a good for health. Friends, what is attrition bias? See, attrition bias is nothing but when we are doing research, when we are taking the opinion of the other people, a group of people, some people are voluntarily excluding, they themselves voluntarily excluding from the research because of the behavior of the researcher, because of the amenities provided by the researcher on that particular time. So there are different reasons. They doesn't like the research. That is called attrition bias. So attrition bias and confirmation bias is related to researcher, but attrition bias is related to respondent. Friends, this is the different. Okay, friends. Next, assertion reason question. The experimental research allows researcher to control extraneous variable to establish cause and effect relationship. And reason, by manipulating the independent variable and controlling the other factors, experimental designs minimize the impact of confounding variables. Friends, this question may seems difficult. Prima facie, this question seems difficult, but after understanding the keywords, we may solve it very easily. Here, the keywords is extraneous variables. What are the extraneous variable? And another keyword is independent variable. Controlling the factors, experimental design minimize the impact of confounding variable. Friends, these are the main keywords in this question. What are the extraneous variable? What are the independent variable? What are the confounding variable? Here, friends, while doing research, we may confront these type of variables. First is independent variable IV, second is dependent variable DV, third is extraneous variable EV. Friends, what is the independent variable? Independent variable is nothing but a researcher can vary this to get the results. Okay, because of variation of independent variable, the dependent variable may vary. See, independent variable is a main a research component that may vary by a researcher. Because of variation of independent variable, the dependent variable may vary. So these two are interrelated. Friends, these two are interrelated. But extraneous variable, there is no control of researcher on this. See, extraneous variable, there is no control. These are external variables. There is no control of researcher on this extraneous variable. So in that extraneous variable, confounding variables also there. Confounding variable is also called as a extraneous variable. So extraneous variable is related to confounding. Confounding variable is, for example, the researcher may forgot to fix the confounding variable. For example, a researcher want to study the outcome of the previous night exam performance of the students because of the previous night sleep. See, friends, if you sleep properly before the exam previous night, you may perform better in the next day exam. So that is the research topic. What is the effect of sleep on the performance of the students in the exam? So that is the research topic. What is the independent variable here? Sleep. Sleep is the independent variable. See, performance in the exam is the dependent variable. See, if you vary the sleep, if you reducing the hours, number of hours of the sleep, the performance of the exam may vary. That is called a dependent variable. So what is extraneous variable means? Confounding variable means, for example, the noise may affect exam. In the exam hall, noise, the temperature of the exam hall. See, these are all not in the hands of the research. So the temperature, noise, all these extraneous variables that are there in the examination hall. Okay, friends. So again, come to the question. Experimental research allows researcher to control extraneous variable to establish cause and effect relationship. Cause and effect. If, for example, student performance may, for example, they decrease. So the cause and effect relationship is the noise of the examination hall is more. Because of the noise, student may not focus on the exam. So it is establishing the cause and effect relationship, this extraneous variable. So reason is by manipulating the independent variable. What is here independent variable is sleep. Independent variable and controlling other factors. Controlling means noise, the temperature, controlling other experimental design minimize the impact of the confounding variable. Confounding variable here is sound, noise, sound and temperature. So here both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Experimental research is designed to establish causality by manipulating variables and controlling extraneous factor. The reason accurately explain how this control achieved, making it correct explain. So we can control the extraneous variables. What are the extraneous variable, friends? Here the noise and the temperature. We can achieve the almost exact results of in the research. Okay, friends. Next, which bias in experimental research design occurs when sample selection for the study is not representative of the target population? Not representative. Sample selected. Here selected. Here in the options, selection. Friends, here is the answer. Selected, here selection. This is the answer. Simply, without knowing the concept of the question, we may arrive. Friends, this is the key. If we find the right keyword in the question, we may directly come to the answer, right answer. Which bias is experimental research design occurs when sample selected. Friends, what are the samples? Different types of samples. We are already done the video. We may check on the sociodemic channel, friends. Okay, sample selected for study is not representative of the target population. So we have selected a sample, so that is not related to represented to that particular research. That is called selection bias. Selection bias arises when sample is not randomly or representatively chosen, leading to a skewed results, leading to a skewed bad results. So that is called selection bias. Observer bias. What is the observer bias? See, earlier we have discussed that observer bias is a researcher bias who are doing research. So observer has his beliefs and expectations. He may support his beliefs, his observations. He may defend his beliefs. So that is called observer bias. Recall bias. So recall bias is related to respondents. those who are participating in research. Okay, friends, recall bias. When a researcher asks a question to the respondent may forget the answer, may give the inaccurate answers. She may give the false or inaccurate answers. That is called because of the forgottenness, memory. That is called recall bias. Next, what is the social desirability bias? See, what is the social desirability bias, friends? When people feel nervous or concerned about how they are being judged by others. See, if I give the right answer, people may think I am a bad person. So why to choose the risk? I may give a different answer. So desirable, what society expect from you, irrespective of the truth, friends. For example, in a school, students, a research is conducted. What are the your dietary choice? Asked the school students. So school students says that maybe they may consume the what do you say, fast foods or something. They may apprehend, they may hesitate to give answer. Let's say fast food is harmful to the health, so they may give the different answer. No, no, we are consuming fruits that are good for health, that are contains more proteins and vitamins. But they are consuming fast foods, but they are giving answer differently because of that, because of the social desirability. So society is expecting good answer, so society may think otherwise because we are giving a correct answer. Because of that, they may give different answer. That is called social desirability bias. So selection bias arises when the sample is not randomly or representatively chosen, leading to skewed results. Okay, next question. Assertion reason. Friends, we are deliberately selected the assertion reasoning questions because these are the aspirants may feel difficultiness in choosing the answer in the assertion reasoning questions. So confirmation bias in experimental research can lead to misrepresentation of data. We have already discussed what is confirmation bias. Researcher may selectively focus on data that support their hypothesis while ignoring the contradictory evidence. Friends, what is the confirmation bias? We are already discussed. Confirmation bias is nothing but belief belief of the researchers, opinion of the researcher. The researcher have some confirmation, they are always trying to support, defend their beliefs. That is called confirmation bias, irrespective of the results. Irrespective of the results. We have already discussed about a vegetarian, non-vegetarian discussion. So, researcher always trying to support his vegetarian opinion. That is called confirmation bias. So, confirmation bias in experimental research can lead to misrepresentation. Obviously, misrepresentation, false data, misrepresentation of data. So, reason is researcher may selectively focus data that support their hypothesis. Their hypothesis means their belief, their opinion, while ignoring the contradictory evidence. Yes, the reason is correctly supporting the assertion. So, answer is A. The explanation confirmation bias occurs when researcher favor data aligning with the expectation, leading to misrepresentation. This reason explain this mechanism, making it correct explanation. Friends, I assume that you have understand all the questions. Okay, thanks for watching, friends. We will meet in next video. Thanks for watching.